All right, everybody. Today I am joined by stunt woman, author, martial artist, actress, the lovely, talented Amy Johnston. You've seen her in Female Fight Squad. You've seen her in Lady Blood Fight. You've seen her and probably didn't know it in countless Marvel films. Thank you so much for joining me today, Amy.
Thank you. That was an awesome introduction. I really appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
Now, for people that don't know, and I know I ask a lot of strange martial arts questions that other ones don't because I actually do martial arts. Can you, before I ask you, of course, about you, because I'm talking to you, a lot of people don't know your father was a four-time, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's four-time kickboxing champion. Five-time.
Yeah.
I'm off to a bad start.
No, you're great.
Did he train you when you were young? I assume I know the answer to this.
Yes, most definitely. That is where all of my early stages of martial arts came from. He had a martial arts school, and he trained in many other disciplines, and one in particular called the progressive style, which mixes a lot of different styles together, including Kempo, which I know you do.
I do.
And, that was my life growing up, was training in the martial arts school with him and my brother and my mom. So he definitely trained me.
There's a lot of videos that people have made about honoring your father on YouTube, but I've noticed that you were in a few, and if you go to the comments section, you seem to get a lot, oh my God, is that Amy at 9 minutes and all of that. So it's kind of neat to see you in there being trained by him.
Oh, I must have missed these videos. Is it like him training martial arts?
It's like old, like they look like home clips, and forgive me, fans. They have horrible music in them. They have a lot of hair metal music, like ZZ Top and Rocky music, stuff I'm not into. But yeah, and you could tell it's like probably camcorder footage that these fans have edited together. But some of them are neat. Yeah, there is one where you're in there. Well, I don't know if it's you, but all the comments are like, "Is that Amy?" I think that's Amy. Is that my girl Amy man. And all that? So
I gotta do some digging. That's awesome. It's just so. Oh my gosh, it warms my heart. It warms me in my entirety hearing from you that you knew of my dad, and that's always so special to me because most people aren't aware of him or what he did, or at least tell me about it. So it's really cool to hear. Oh,
I loved how he fought. I mean, there were one of the things I noticed about him, like in the case of Don the Dragon, I noticed his jab was his kick, where I would notice your father would always he would throw side kicks and spin kicks, which you didn't see a lot of spin hook kicks in kickboxing back in that day. And, that always kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, he was known as the foot-slinging kid. He loved those kicks. Those were his punches. He would set up a kick with a kick. He loved his kick.
And I noticed you do, too. And I saw one of your videos, your training videos, and you have I remember from when I first did Shotokan when I was a kid, the old school, when you would raise your foot, you'd always, you'd stress that's the chamber and everything like that, which a lot of schools don't do anymore. It's sad.
Yeah, there's just so many schools that don't have like a strong foundation or structure, or maybe some schools are just more business oriented and they're not as strict, and that's all fine, but I agree with you. There's so much importance in the chamber.
What did you earn your first black belt in? What style?
So it's just the progressive style. So again, it's a mixture of different styles. It's got Kempo and Arnis, Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, Kung Fu, and a few other styles mixed together. And so I learned all my three black belts in the progressive style.
The one thing I haven't seen, at least in the movies, I've seen you do a little sword work. My wife follows you on Instagram, so show me some of the sword that you do. When you did Arnis and all that, do you ever work with like stick or anything like that, or knife?
Yes, of course. Knife fights in general are some of my favorite, on film, of course. I never want to get into a real knife fight. But yeah, I love training with sticks and knives and all different sorts of weapons, and I truly love knife fights and choreographing knife fights because they're really fun and intense and quick. And obviously, in a real knife fight, it's probably over with very, very quickly. But I love just playing with maneuvering knife against knife in a fight.
I'm a big karambit knife guy, and when I was showing my son, when I was showing him on the bob, it was like, okay, now here's one move, and I think I did maybe 20 or 30 slashes in succession. I was like, it's like, this is so cool, but really all you've got to do is hook the guy's artery once or twice. So
yeah, but it looks so cool, right?
It is. It's the most awesome knife to flow with.
Oh man, yeah, especially the karambit. I want to see some of your videos. I would love to see some of your moves with karambit or martial arts. Do you have any of those?
I've got one so far. I do some reviews for a weapons company called Karate Mart, and they always want me to start making videos of it. So I did their Twisted Blade baton. I did review that. After I had a surgery, I gained weight, so I'm super self-conscious of filming videos of myself now.
No. There's never a perfect time to film. There's always going to be something, I promise. There's always going to be something to do. Just film. It'll be motivation.
I need to do a video of their new staff, so I do plan on working on that this week and putting it up.
Yay, awesome.
What is your weapon? Well, knife is obviously your weapon of choice. What's one that you use? I know for those that don't know, you do stunt work in a lot of films, in particularly the Marvel Universe films. Now, do you have to learn how to use all the weapons of the characters that you do the stunts for?
Well, definitely, you should be hired because you're capable of doing that, or you can learn really well. But as a martial artist, you kind of understand that. I'm sure you know one movement of a weapon can easily be transitioned into another weapon. So I think one of the most one of the best foundation weapons is probably a bow staff. Just to understand the flow of moving a weapon, and it can all kind of just be transitioned to each weapon, I believe. And so, as a stunt performer, if your character is wielding a sword, you should most likely get hired because you're great at sword work. So, yes, anytime there's a character that has weapon work, a lot of times people bring me in because I do a lot of that. I've worked in several Marvel films. I don't do so much stunt work anymore for those films, but I from time to time I do. The last thing I did for stunt work was double Jessica Chastain on a film that should hopefully be coming out this year called Ava. And then before that I did Captain America, The Winter Soldier.
That's my favorite Marvel movie, I must say.
Yes, me too. It's so good because it's great. Why is it your favorite?
Because it made Captain America. It was and I'm normally not a fan of espionage films, but it was an adult espionage James Bond, and he's killing people in it, and it started the whole Hydra thing, and I don't know, it was just well-rounded, one of the best films I've ever seen.
I agree 100%. I think it's so good, and the action turned out really well. And I credit the Russo brothers because they actually allowed the stunt team to do what we do best. So a lot of times, the stunt team will create a previs of the fights. We'll have the script. We'll break down everything. We'll create a previs. We'll film it. We'll edit it, and perform it with dialogue and everything a lot of times. And we will give it to the director. From there, the director usually comes back with notes and is cut this. We don't need this. But with the Russo brothers, they took our previses and directly just did it shot for shot for most all of the fights. So they really trusted us, and I think it turned out amazing.
When it opened hot with the fight with George St. Pierre, one of the greatest, if not the greatest mixed martial artist ever. Man. I mean, it just hit it out of the park right away.
Yeah, one of my favorite fighters. Well, what a humble guy he was, too. He was great. He's awesome.
Oh, always been a big fan of his.
Me too.
Now, I jumped ahead. You trained in martial arts as a child. Was your goal to be in martial arts films, stunt work, or an actress, or did it all just kind of train, or did it all just kind of fall into place for you?
Yeah, so I guess when I was younger, brother and I would create a lot of fight scenes, and we always watched a lot of Hong Kong action films in general. I'm sure you're very familiar with all of these. We could talk about them for days, months maybe. But I grew up on all of that, and I loved all of it, and it was just a way of life. And I guess as I got older, you know, the time for college came around, and I was like, okay, well, I have put so much love and attention and time into my dedication of martial arts. What can I actually do with this? And it hit me once I watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, seeing Michelle Yeoh's performance of her beauty and strength, vulnerability, like her, just how feminine she was, all of that together was so inspiring to me. And I was like, okay, that's exactly what I want to do. That is it. I want to be an action star. And at that point, it was kind of a blur. It was really hard to get started. So I eventually moved out to Hollywood after high school. I skipped the college thing because I just wanted to get started as soon as possible while I was young. I started from there, being broke and alone for many years, eventually finding my crowd of people and eventually making it into the world of it. But, yeah.
Do you think you were born 15 years too late?
My gosh, I've thought about that before. I really have, man. I really have thought about that before.
Because, you know,
but then again,
you know, the big 90s straight-to-video action and everything. So, I mean, you would have been...
I know. It's such a weird time now because there's such a huge market for female action right now, more than ever. But there's a huge divide between, like, independent action films, like mine or Scott Adkins, Michael Jai Weiss, and such. And then there's the big-budgeted Marvel films that have some female action stars. So there's a huge divide. And I'm more in the independent action film world, and it's kind of hard to move from one to the other. You're kind of in one or the other world. But I don't know. I do think about sometimes being sad about missing out on the whole 90s action scene. But it is really a good time right now to be a woman in film. So it's all right. I'll be fine.
The 90s were such an amazing era for the video action films. Had I been, I mean, I'm old, but if I was just a little bit older, I could have hit that time where I could have kind of tried my luck into it. But by the time I actually was in good shape and better looking, they were kind of on their way out. Plus, like I told you before, I lacked some of that raw talent that some of these other guys have.
Well, you know what? I mean, it's hard to judge yourself. You could still start now. I mean, you could make your own films. Who knows? I didn't know that was something that you had wanted to do. You said that you had thought about fighting too, right?
Yeah, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I always wanted to, and then it turned out I just wasn't that good. No matter how hard I trained or what I put into my body, I
don't know about that.
I could never have competed on the level of like your father or Don the Dragon or any of these guys. They would have wiped the floor with me.
No, I don't know. I mean, if you put the time in, they just trained all the time. I'm sure you could have. You could still do something with your martial arts. I mean, there's you're not that old. You keep saying you're old, but you're not that old.
I feel old.
No, you could. I feel old too a lot of times, but you could still be in films. You could still do things.
Now, I'm assuming then in the 90s you watched all the 90s action films.
Yeah, I watched a lot of 90s action films and a lot of 80s action films as well. I was young in the 90s, but that is truly what I grew up watching.
Were you, you said Michelle Yeoh was an inspiration. Were you inspired by, like, say, Cynthia Rothrock?
Yeah, man, I'm so inspired by her. She's awesome. And also, like, I can go back even further. Chang Pei and a bunch of women who really kind of started this action actress thing. A lot of inspiring women. And Cynthia Rothrock, I've looked at her career for a long time because, she was like the blonde martial artist. And that really inspired me because obviously we see ourselves in people that look like us or resemble us or make a similarity or a distinction between us. I have followed her for a long time. I think she's wonderful.
She's still making movies. I think after quarantine, she's got quite a few lined up already.
Yeah, it's impressive. She's still going strong. You know, she seems healthy and happy and good to keep going. So might as well.
Oh, one of the just genuinely nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, she seems really wonderful. I hope maybe we can do something together, her and I.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I always thought we could do like a mother-daughter or some type of like, I don't know, maybe a mother-daughter thing.
I mean, that could work. Now, I got a weird question for you. When I was telling some of the, I never tell in advance who I'm going to interview, but when I would tell some of my friends, hey, I'm going to interview Amy Johnston, you know, the great martial artist. Everybody got you confused with the Pink Ranger, Amy Jo Johnston. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, man, tell me about it. I can't tell you how many times. Oh, man. Good news is I loved the Pink Power Ranger growing up. I was obsessed with her. But, yeah, I mean, I've even gotten the invite to cons with a bunch of information, and I was like, oh, that's cool. They want me to go to a con. I don't know why. Maybe they like Lady Blood Fight. Eventually finding out that, you know, it wasn't for me. It was for her. So that happens all the time.
You should just go and sign her name.
I know, right?
I think it was Isaac Florentine that said he was at some show and people thought he was, or no, it was Sam Jones. He was at shows and people would think he was Dolph Lundgren, so he would just sign things Dolph Lundgren.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And he said when he told Dolph, he's like, I made it really illegible in case everyone found out.
Was he getting paid to do that too?
No, people would just come up to him and they would give him a picture of Dolph Lundgren and they'd be like, I'm a big fan. He'd be like, oh, yeah, thanks. And he just, you know, he didn't want to tell him no. So he was like, yeah, everybody thought I was Dolph Lundgren because I had the blonde flat top, you know, the Rocky type. So.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, maybe, you know, I don't think I look anything like Amy Johnston. But no. Hey, I could give it a shot. Give it a shot.
No, you look a lot better, if I do say so.
Oh, well, geez, thank you. She looks pretty great in her younger years. No. Were you not a Power Ranger fan?
I was. I was like, I was out of high school when it came out, but I mean, I always thought it was kind of fun because it reminded me of the old Godzilla. But I met a handful of the original ones, and that, yeah, truthfully, that kind of ruined it for me. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard the expression of, like, don't meet your heroes, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, fair enough.
Yeah, and that was...
I left, yeah.
That was okay, I guess. I mean, I'll give them credit, you know, I mean, that original cast is still making a living off of that show, so, I mean, they're smart to embrace it.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to because you kind of get stuck in that world. It's hard to kind of get out of that world. I think Johnny Young Bosch is one of the only ones who really gained success elsewhere, and he's got so many credits with voice acting. He's got like 400 credits or something ridiculous. But I think as a Power Ranger, you have to embrace it.
He made a really good, and forgive me, I can't think of the name, and I'm pretty sure it was R-rated, like a hard action film. Shortly after the Power Rangers, it was really good. And I just remember he was fighting somebody in like a cabin that was on fire. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name, but it was actually really good.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Huh. Yeah, it's probably on YouTube.
He's good. Yeah, probably. Interesting. Yeah, I loved Power Rangers growing up.
My son, you know, he of course watched it. I mean, my God, with 30-something years, it's still going. So. Yes.
And, you know, I watched, our nephew was over, I don't know, like 2 months ago, I guess. But he was watching one of the newer ones. And you know, there's some good stuff in there. It's still going. I'm pretty impressed with the fact that it's just still going strong.
Hated the movie. I was so disappointed in the new movie.
Oh, yeah. I don't know many Power Ranger fans, but we're very happy with that. Yeah.
It was like watching a CW show.
Yeah. Hey, you like CW shows, don't you?
I do, yes, of course. I'm a superhero guy.
Yeah. But it didn't work for you?
Not in the form of a movie. I mean, if I'm going to go see a Power Ranger movie, I really would like to see them fight more than 1 hour and 40 minutes in. I don't care about their backstory.
Yeah, so the stunt team said they had so many cool things worked out that were just cut, unfortunately. So I would have loved to see like all the stuff that the stunt team came up with.
Now, how did you get involved in the Marvel universe? Because that's a dream of not probably only every actor because it's so huge, but every dork on the planet, myself included, would love to be involved in some type of Marvel film, and you did quite a few, if I'm correct.
Yeah. See, it's just one of those things of working up in the industry. It's like I started out doing stunt work on music videos and very low budget things, eventually got into SAG, eventually started meeting more of the right people, and what was that job? Oh, I did a previs with some of the guys that were already on the team for Captain America Winter Soldier. And this was after I had done like some Disney shows and I was starting to build my resume up. I did a previs because they wanted Black Widow to fight a little differently. We had already seen a lot of her flips and her tricks and things like that, her maneuvers around the head, and they already had Heidi Moneymaker as one of the doubles who does a lot of those, and so they wanted to bring in a martial artist so that they could have an acrobat and a martial artist, because Heidi is like a gymnast, very great gymnast. And so they brought me in to do a previs that was more like straightforward, a little bit of like Jake Haiti movement and tighter attack, to play with more of like a heavier martial arts style. So they brought me in to do the previs for that, and I got the job. So it was kind of like a little audition thing, but that's how I got it.
Is it harder to do stunts for a Marvel film or star in your own film?
It's way harder to star in your own film.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess I guess it just depends on what you think is hard. I'd say the Marvel film, because there's so many characters, because there's so many different things going on, and the budget is huge, you have a lot of rest days most of the time. So, like, you might do a huge stunt one week, and then maybe there's not a big stunt for a couple days, or next week, or 2 weeks, and maybe the other time you're just practicing and rehearsing or working out. But when you're starring in your own film, you're there every day. You come home, you rehearse for the next day, you stretch, you work out, you train, you rehearse with the director, whatever, and then you go the next day. And it's really intense for a long time, and you have a lot of pressure. So it's a different level of difficulty, but from my experience, definitely starring in your own film is harder.
Now, I've got to go back, because I always do this because I messed up. You also do voice capture video capture for a lot of video games, Tomb Raider, I think Batman Arkham, and the Uncharted. How did that all come about?
Yeah, so motion capture is one of my favorite things to do as far as like, being a performer, because you can do stunts and acting at the same time, which is something I've always had trouble with, because, people want to put you in a box, and I was always either a stunt performer or an actor, when I really do both, and I love doing both, but it's just been really difficult. And in motion capture in the video game world, or motion capture in general, it's really looked at as like, I'm just a performer. I can do voice, stunt, acting, and it's been really wonderful. And I got into it because, the first Deadpool film, I was brought in to do some Gina Carano stunts after they had already filmed the movie. And so we needed to do motion capture. And so I was in the motion capture studio working on that. And from there, I kept getting hired by different studios because they really liked my performance, and it eventually just went into like a constant stream of motion capture and trailers. Actually, I think I had done some Blur trailers previous to that, but it just really got started after Deadpool. It's been nonstop with that. It's a really cool world of people. They're all awesome.
I love Deadpool. My son would have been about 5 or 6 when that came out. I got a lot of dirty looks from other parents that he was, in the theater watching it, but we had a good time. And I have to admit, for some odd reason, I was strangely attracted to Gina Carano in that film. I still to this day have yet to figure that out.
I mean, she's just got that look. I mean, she's hard. I mean, it's difficult not to be attracted to her, so you don't even have to worry about that. It's normal. I think everyone is.
I think it was the mullet. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
No, Deadpool's
it could be the mullet.
Deadpool's an awesome film. I really hope they continue to make more of those. That's classed by. I can't really compare it to any superhero movie, you know, but that's definite. Yeah, I can. Birds of Prey is very Deadpool-esque.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it's just really refreshing to have that dark comedy.
Plus, I'm assuming you were excited to work with Ryan Reynolds, like most ladies.
Yeah, but I didn't get to work with him because we were on a motion capture stage. So it was me, I believe, Tim Miller, the director, and the stunt coordinator, and a few other stunt performers. So, and on Deadpool 2, same thing. It was in a motion capture stage. So, I didn't get to work with. Ryan, unfortunately.
Did you, when you did the Marvel films, did you at least get to work with Scarlett Johansson?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you're on a full run like that, you know, we had like 3 months prep before the film even started. So we're training with the actors constantly. We're working on choreography for them, bringing them in to teach them things and keep their workouts going. Working on them with character stuff. Like, you really have to mold into that actor and character and join as one so that it's a seamless connection. Because the last thing you want is, like, you know, let's say Scarlett's running away from the bomb, and then it cuts to me, and I'm running completely differently, or I use my right hand when she's left-handed, or, like, you really have to be connected and understand, like, what the actor wants to portray as his character so that you can do your job. So, you know, you're, as a stunt performer or a main stunt double, you're constantly, you know, training with or you're, you know, at least by them, ready to step in at any moment.
Black Widow was always a favorite comic character of mine. I actually have a big Black Widow statue in my basement. And when she got cast as the Black Widow, I was kind of like, Scarlett Johansson? And then when I saw her in the outfit with the hair and the way she played it, it was like, wow, this is some genius casting. I never would have guessed her to be the Black Widow, but God, she nailed it.
She's great. I think she's so lovely as a human and an actor. She's really got those subtle emotions that work perfectly for this character. She nails it.
Marvel's casting is amazing. I mean, everyone they cast is just so spot on. It's they're all like they were born to play the roles. I don't think I've ever seen a franchise have better casting than a Marvel film.
That's a really good point. I would have to agree with you there. That's a very good point.
DC casting, I could do without some of their casting, but one of their casting, which I think is amazing, is Margot, I always say it wrong, Robley, as Harley Quinn. Now, I know for a fact, because I watched Bat in the Sun, that you played Harley Quinn in one of the Superpower Beatdowns.
Yeah, I love that character.
Now, did you audition for the role of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad?
No, they had already had her connected to the project for a long time. They know, you know, it's hard to get into certain positions because they already have people that they want. So, no, I did not. But I did love playing Harley as Bat in the Sun. She's such a fun and interesting character to take on.
Bat in the Sun does really amazing work for the 8 to 10 minutes they make their little films. They do a heck of a job on those things.
Yeah, they work really, really hard. It's nonstop for them, and they're always trying to just keep getting better and make it bigger. They're really, really good.
Yeah, you were great in that. Now you were involved. You did stunt work for Suicide Squad, correct?
Yeah, so for that I came in for the previs, and I was doing Harley Quinn stuff, so it was just a fight previs. And, I keep saying the word previs, but for anyone listening who doesn't know what a previs is, it just means it's a pre-visualization of the scene of the fight scene of the characters in that scene to then give to the director, producer, etc. And so I was brought in just for the previs because I think they already had a double for her, and I was also working on something else at the time. So I didn't work on the film shoot, but I was doing previs.
Now, this is a weird question. Suicide Squad was a movie that, before it came out, I hated it. When I saw the cast, I hated it. When I watched the movie, I went into the movie like, I don't want to watch this. This is going to suck. And I actually ended up really enjoying it. I thought it ended up being a really good film.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. You know, I think it's so hard because the market's so saturated with superhero films, and we have high expectations a lot of times, and there's always reviews out, and we get to hear, you know, from other people what they think, and so it's hard to go into film without, like, any prior judgment. But overall, I think that was a fun film. I enjoyed it, and I think Margot Robbie is great.
I have no kind words to say about the Joker in that film, though. Nothing will change my mind. That was a terrible Joker. I'm sorry. But
you're one of those.
Oh, it's terrible. Now, I am a huge fan, when I mentioned CW, of Legends of Tomorrow is probably my current favorite, but Arrow was my show. And they had the Suicide Squad on Arrow, and I was like, God, this is so perfect. The guy playing Deadshot is dead on. They've got Michael Jai White as the Bronze Tiger. They've got China White. This is so good. Why didn't DC just use these people in their film? Because that's kind of what Marvel does. So I think that kind of, the fact that Arrow was so good kind of put a, DC has they have the TV and the cartoons down so good. It's just, their movies have improved though a little bit for me.
Yeah, what do you think it is that is so much different with their films? Like, why do their TV shows work and their films don't work for you as much?
I think because the TV shows, well, of course with TV you have a little more time to tell the story, but the TV shows, it seems like, are more, they're written by people that know the comics, that love the comics, that know the characters, even though Arrow really was basically the way they could get Batman on TV. But like Flash is so dead on, where it seems like in the DC films, the costumes never match. They seem more interested in casting a big name rather than a good part. And some of it just seems, I don't know, almost just rushed. Now, Shazam was one that I knocked it out of the park for me. I thought that was a great movie. So, you know,
I did too. I thought that was fun.
I thought, I won't lie to you, I thought Ben Affleck was a hell of a good Batman.
Me too. I think you're right. I think DC rushes a lot, though, and I think they've been trying to catch up to Marvel for a while as far as, like, the deck of films. So I think they rush a lot of things with a lot of their characters. And it's so hard at that level to get certain, like, I'm sure a lot of the writers for some of the shows would be great in writing the films, but there's just so much lack of control a lot of times at those higher films that, you know, maybe the writer of certain DC films was the writer of another film that was successful, and they're using that as opposed to really looking into who the best writers for the job, or maybe there's a proper connection. It's just like, you never know. It has to be the right culmination of everything to make a perfect film or a good film, you know?
Like the good case in point, like, I didn't hate Justice League like the rest of the world. I hated Superman v Batman, but like the kid that played the Flash in the movies, I liked him, but I have to hate him just like everybody else because he's not Grant Gustafson from the Flash TV show that we all love. I don't understand why they just don't keep the same, let the same guy play the character, intertwine it all like Marvel did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all their shows.
Yeah, you know, I don't know why shows do that either. Like, I don't know why they can't intertwine that either. It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know. I don't get that. It seems like it would do really well, and audiences of the show would come over to the film, people who already love him as the Flash. I mean, it makes sense to me, too, to keep it the same.
Now, do you watch all the superhero shows on CW?
No, I don't.
Oh.
So I watched a little bit of The Flash. No, I don't. I tried to get into them a while ago. I'm just, they never, I don't know, they never just grabbed me.
You got.
Maybe I'll give it another shot.
Got to. I mean, those crossovers they do, like they've done the Elseworlds crossover, the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover. I mean, they're better than any movie.
Right, and I've said that before too. Just there's so many shows. It's it's hard to pick one and go for it these days. But eventually, I'll get to those.
Now, you know what franchise I think you would be fantastic in?
What's that?
Not that they ask me. The greatest film franchise in history, The Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, that would be fun. I've had a couple auditions for some of those films, but a lot of times it's just really hard to break in. But eventually I will. I would love to be a part of those films. I think that'd be fun. Or just like high action, adrenaline type of films.
You and Statham in a fight, I think would be one of the best man-woman fights ever.
That would be fun. I could see a lot of people being like, "Oh, she's so small against him. Why are they fighting?" So we would have to find a way to make it look realistic. Maybe I have a weapon, or I'm smart about my tactics or something. But that could be a really fun fight.
When I train, I actually hang a picture of Jason Statham. When I train seriously on my refrigerator. That way, if I want to eat, I can look at it and be like, Jason Statham wouldn't eat this. So he inspires me.
You are hilarious.
He actually, I swear to Christ, I'm not lying. I had all these photos of, it looked so creepy to my wife. I have all these photos of him from Death Race, shirtless on my refrigerator. I go to, I was like, oh, Statham in doing this.
You are so funny. Oh my God. I love that.
No,
do you actually eat differently? Do you actually eat differently because you look at him and you're like, shit.
I would look and it'd be like, better get the tuna, better get the water, and
you are funny. Wow.
I mean, because the Expendables movies were so good. I mean, I can't imagine how much baby oil they went through on that set because everybody was so greased up. But yeah, I'd be like, okay,
I know.
Look like Statham, but I got to get down to 160 pounds somehow. How did he do this?
That's really great. I love that.
Well, now when one of the stars of the Expendables, of course, and we mentioned I mentioned him, you got to work. You didn't share many scenes, but I think just one or two. You got to work with Dolph Lundgren in Female Fight Squad or Female Fight Club, however it's known. I think it goes by both titles.
I think it's more Fight Squad now these days. I did. It was really cool. I wish I had more scenes with him. I just had a scene towards the end of the movie and then a scene with me, kind of like a flashback of me, hitting the mitts that he was holding for me. And it was just one day with him. He was really nice, and I was so excited to meet him because, I had seen him in films, and he's, kind of an action icon. So it was really cool to work with him, and he held the pads well, as a lot of martial artists do. So that's nice.
You got to work with another. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I say you got to work with another hero of mine, the great Chuck Zito.
Chuck is awesome. Where do you know Chuck from?
I don't, unfortunately. I've read his book. Used to listen to his radio show when he was on Sirius. Huge fan of Chuck's.
Man, that dude was such a blast. He was my favorite person on set, and that's not to put anybody else down. I loved everybody, but that man had some awesome stories. He is so entertaining and such a, oh my God, he's a gem. I love working with Chuck Zito.
Now, one of the
he's everywhere, too.
Oh, yeah, he pops up all over.
Yeah, he's in, boxing gyms during, MMA breakdowns, and he's everywhere.
Well, and he used to, I think he still does stunt work, and I was showing my son Best of the Best 2. Great movie. And my wife caught when Eric Roberts is beating up one of the guys coming to kill him. My wife's like, isn't that Zito? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And we paused it. Oh, shit, it is. And, we watched the end credits. Chuck Zito's like, this guy's in everything.
He really is. He's just everywhere, and he seems to know everybody, too. He's just one of those guys.
Now, one of the things I liked in that film was when you had your fights, I could tell you had your kickboxing form, of course, but being what I thought was a great nuance, being, you know, your dad was holding the mitts and you're in Chuck Zito's boxing gym and all this, you had more of the in and out hunched boxing stance in your fights, which you didn't in your other films. So I thought that added a really great touch of like realism to it.
Thank you. You know, most people don't notice things like that, and it takes you, you know, and martial artists to notice that. And thank you for noticing that. You know, it's the little things that you have to do to change up characters or to change up styles. And, you know, I'm not used to, like, a boxing style. And I've done a few boxing films now as a stunt performer. And so I've, especially after female fight spots, now I have even better kind of structure for boxing. But, yeah, you gotta switch it up.
I apologize if you hear my stupid dogs barking in the background. You hear them in most interviews, unfortunately.
I was just imagining what kind of dogs they are.
Corgi, Lab, and Coonhound.
Oh, you're busy. Wow.
Very busy, yes. When one barks, they all bark. Now, because when you did Lady Blood Fight, you had more of a wushu style, I noticed.
Yeah. So for that, I was being trained by Hung Yen Yen, who is heavy in wushu, and a lot of the stunt team was heavy in wushu. And for that character, you know, we were trying to do like a soft martial arts style of wushu because in the story, you know, the story is really about light and dark and yin and yang and two different styles and two different ways of teaching, right? And my style was more of like the soft spiritual side, and we did a lot of wushu type movements and kind of created some movements based off of wushu. So, yeah, I got to play with that a little bit.
Now, did you know going in it was going to be blood sport with females?
Yeah, so initially it was called Lady Bloodsport, and when I auditioned for it, like when I got the call many years ago, when I got the call, it was called Lady Bloodsport. And even when I was filming it was called Lady Bloodsport. Towards the end of the film, it was called Lady Bloodsport. And then they were playing with a few other names, like Iron and Steel, and eventually came up to Lady Blood Fight. But obviously we couldn't use Bloodsport because it's Bloodsport. But, you know, it's obviously an ode to films like that, and especially Bloodsport.
Who was, because I didn't recognize her when I was looking her up, who played that just ginormous Russian fighter in that film? Who was that?
So her name's Mei-Ling Ng, and she's awesome. You should check her out, and you might love having her on your website or interviews as well because she's great. She played a small character in Wonder Woman. She had a role in Scorpion King. She just did a film with Scott Adkins and Amy Johnston. She's pretty awesome. She used to be she didn't tell you, but she used to be like a fitness model. And she does martial arts, so she's pretty badass.
Yeah, I mean, she was, of course, the Chung Lee character from Bloodsport. She kills your friend and all. So,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, when you fought Jenny Wu, were you ever afraid you were going to kick the lollipop into her mouth?
That's a cute question. No. I don't think I had a fight with her when she had the lollipop in. But I gotta say, I loved, like, the direction of her character with the lollipop and, like, the hair when you first get introduced to her. It's so cute.
And that was what was so weird when I'm watching the film. I was, like, mesmerized by her and her character. And then I looked her up and, and I see her picture when she's not, punked out for it. It was like, oh, my God, this is the same girl like that. And, she had done, like, a lot of drama work beforehand. So it was like, wow.
Yeah, she's stunning. And, I will say a lot of those actresses had never done martial arts before. Initially, for the film, the idea was to get a bunch of stunt performers that knew how to fight so we could have some amazing fights. But instead, a lot of actors got cast, which was awesome because these actors worked so hard. Jenny was training every day, all day. This girl was training too hard. A lot of these actors were overtraining, but they were so dedicated to these roles, and they ended up looking amazing. Obviously, a lot of the actors had doubles, but most actors did everything themselves, and Jenny did a lot herself as well. So I was very, very impressed with the actors on the film.
So one of the things I've always said is like why I would rather watch a movie with you, with Scott Adkins, Cynthia Rothrock, Gary Daniels. I like to see real martial artists doing real martial arts moves, as opposed to, you know, say another film where it's nothing against the stunt person doing the work or anything, but to me the Isaac Florentine films, stuff like that, the martial art movies that you do, that to me is more authentic action. That's more what I like to watch.
Thank you. I agree, and there's definitely an audience for it, but it's a smaller audience. But I enjoy it as well. It's always really nice to see the actual movement of two performers. You know, it's like a dance. It's a choreographed dance, as opposed to the camera coming in really tight and shaky, and you can't see what the heck is going on. So I love like the wide angles of seeing two performers really go at it with their skills. I have to agree with you.
Well, I think there's a lot bigger audience than all you guys give yourselves credit for. I mean, if say you did a movie where we got you and Scott Adkins and then put you in with like Gary Daniels and Cynthia Rothrock, and you get the old and you get the new, maybe Van Damme, that would make a fortune in a theater. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is a crowd, and they're always going to be fun movies, and hopefully the crowd will always be there. But it's just, it's just hard to get seen as a smaller independent film. But hey, if people enjoy them, we're all going to be very happy making them.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I told you Accident Man was not one of my favorites, and boy, it was such a great...
it's okay.
I mean, your fight was great. Jane the Ripper's awesome. You had such great people in it. I want to see you do some movies with Michael Jai White. As a fan, I'm begging you to do some films with Mr. White.
Me too. Thank you. There was one project, I don't know, maybe like a year or two ago that we had started with a director that Michael had called me for. But things are just hard. I gotta say, it's hard to get a movie done. There's a lot of things moving and shaking. Always, we're always trying to work together in different ways. A lot of action people, or a lot of actors in general, are always trying to get things done, but sometimes pitches or films can take, years. Like Accident Man had a script for 10 years, and they were trying to get that made, and until they finally got it made, things take so long sometimes, so it's just a matter of time, but I would love to work with Michael Jai White again.
What do you have coming up?
So when I eventually go back to work, I have a lot of motion capture that we have to continue that I left from, that we need to finish because we've got to get these games out. The next thing that's coming out that I have is a pilot called Beyond the Veil. It's a sci-fi action drama with Dan Southworth, who was a Power Ranger back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. And him and I play together. We have a fight team together. Really cool film. I have like a android body and a human mind for most of the film, so I get to play with a lot of cool things there as an actress. That'll be really fun. And then as far as that, I can't say anything else because things are, who knows, things might get canceled. We might not shoot anything else of what we've already started, but I'm definitely working on quite a few things. And then beyond that, I'm pitching a few shows myself, and I've been writing a lot. There's one show in particular called Hero Training that I did on my YouTube channel a few years ago, and it's being pitched around to be an actual TV show right now. So, lots of stuff, just seeing what budgets at the moment and what I can get done.
I would like, if they ever do a remake of Ninja 3: The Domination, I would hope you play the lead. I don't see a remake of that happening, but if they do, I'd love to see you in the Lucinda Dickey role there.
Yeah, that would be cool. Thank you. I love that you really know your action. I don't think I've ever had an interview or been on the phone even with somebody who really knows their action as much as you do. So I appreciate it.
Well, I credit that to having no life as a child, so it's kind of helped me in adulthood. So yeah, I didn't turn into a normal popular guy till I was in my 20s, so I had a lot of time to spend in solitude and watch movies.
Well, it's working out for you.
It is. Now, I do have to ask one last thing. Is there, because you do the Marvel films, you're with all these iconic characters. If you could play any character in a film, do you have a dream character, a dream part that you would like?
Oh man, I have so many characters. As far as like known characters, I am obsessed with Catwoman. I love Catwoman. I would like to play with that. I'd like to play with like I want to do comedy. I want to do an all-female type comedy action film, like a Charlie's Angels, but of action comedy with women who can actually fight. I could talk about it all day. I have a lot of things that I want to do, but I guess like the known character would be Catwoman.
What do you think of the upcoming Batman film, or do you care not to comment?
I'm excited for it. I have some friends working on it, and the things that they've told me are enticing. So, I don't have too many comments as of yet, but I'm sure I will have many, when we see it eventually. What about you?
Well, if somebody could tell me why Batman is wearing the Black Widow's wrist darts, I'd sure like to know that one. But, I did report, because I'd read the other day that the actor, Robert Pattinson, playing Batman, nothing against him, he was great in The Lighthouse, isn't bothering to work out or train or do anything. So that, as Batman's my favorite superhero, to hear things like that make me very nervous and disheartened about the film. But, who knows?
Don't worry about that.
I haven't seen I liked Adam West. I got no shame in admitting that.
Yeah. And you know what, though? There's always steroids.
That's right. Yep. They do wonders for you.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard. And I think, so I'm sure he'll be fine, but it's hard to judge those things beforehand. But I'm excited to see what they do.
I kind of, even though Batman's my favorite character, I don't want to see another Batman for 10 or 15 years. I thought Affleck was great, and he only did the couple films. I thought Christian Bale was terrible. I thought most Batman they either were a good Batman or a good Bruce Wayne. Very few have played the part. Michael Keaton was great, but he was in boring movies.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually did like Affleck as Batman a lot, and I know some people didn't, but I thought he did a really good job.
He did. I mean, he got his audition when he played Daredevil years ago, so, I mean, it worked good. He was a good Daredevil. Yeah, and, I actually enjoyed the Daredevil movie, too. Now, do you like the Daredevil show? See, that I have watched, and I do. I think it's fun. I think, the fights are pretty impressive, what the team did there. I thought it was pretty good. It's not a perfect show, but I enjoyed it. What about you? Oh, I loved it. I love Daredevil. I love Punisher. The girl who they cast as Elektra was, oh my God, that was the comic come to life right there. Yeah, Elodie Young. My really good friend Lauren Kim doubles her, which you should also have her. You could definitely get Lauren Kim and Mei Ling on your interviews. I think you'd love talking with them. They're great girls. But yeah, I thought she was wonderful too. She was probably my favorite thing about that show. Elodie Young, she was great. My son didn't like the Daredevil Marvel shows. Too much talk for him. He'll stick with his Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. Fair enough. And he liked Birds of Prey. He liked Suicide. He liked Suicide Squad a lot. All right. Wait, how old is he again? He's 11. 10? He just turned 11. 11. Oh, okay. He was 6 when I took him to see Deadpool. Yeah, I love that. I mean, look, kids can get into a lot of things online, regardless, and at least you're with him and guiding him in the right ways. Deadpool's a great movie. I probably would have done the same. It's so hard, because a lot of the jokes went over his head at that age, but Here's a character that's in the comics. He's in the cartoons. He's in the toys. He's in the video games. Your son watches all that. Oh, I know you love him so much, but I can't take you to his movie. I mean, that's just a dick move right there.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Yes, he has many. One of the companies I work for, I review statues, so he has a room adorned in Deadpool statues. So he's pretty lucky in that sense. Awesome. Here's a quick nerd question for me. I don't know what it was. Might have been one of your Instagram videos or something. You were standing in front of a shelf that had a Batman statue on it. Is that the Batman statue from Geek Fuel that came with a keychain?
I mean, between my fiance and I, there's a lot of statues around. Which one was it? A Batman statue?
It was a Batman, and it looked like one that I have too that had a detachable keychain on it. It would have been the Ben Affleck style one.
I don't know. I would have to go digging through. I can let you know, but we have 6 bookshelves and way too many statues. You probably have more, but I'll have to dig around and see which one you were talking about.
It just struck me. I was like, because I have lots of Batman ones, and I was like, I think I have that one. I noticed stupid things though.
Of course you notice the Batman statues. That's awesome.
I don't notice the beautiful girl doing a move. I notice the fucking statue of Batman in the background. That says a lot about me.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's great.
I won't keep you any longer. I know you're a busy lady. Boy, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I know everybody I know just is in love with you. And, you know, your movies are great. Your acting is great. I hope we get to see a lot more of you for years to come.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, your knowledge, all the questions, all the great questions you asked. It was really nice chat. Thanks for having me.